It is 15 years. Again, it was time to move. That's the tough part in life. It's one thing to know when to come in. It's a whole nother thing to know when to leave. Right?
Hello and welcome to the Sweet Spot. We're so glad you're here joining us, and we have Julia Hanna back with us today.
Yes,
We're so excited.
Yes, my shiro.
Yeah, we only got through just a fraction of the story, so much to talk about, and we'll jump right into it. But first, I should introduce my bride, Diane. Welcome to the Sweet Spot, baby.
And for those of you who thank you, honey, you're so sweet.
Oh.
Look at that, you're so sweet.
You're sweeter.
But for those of you who caught the last episode and you got to hear a bit of Julia's upbringing and how she got started in the restaurant business, just fascinating story. We're going to pick up from there and let her continue to tell her story.
All right,
Is that good?
that's awesome.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
All right.
How many times has it been told, like, if we could take that energy, that introduction right there, just lifted the energy? And for a second there, he's and don't worry, Diane, he never forgets you. You know that. Never.
Oh my goodness.
I'm thrilled to be here. Like,
He's
it's,
full of energy all the time.
Yeah, you know what? Secretly, we all want to know that. Does he ever fall asleep snoring and drooling on the couch like regular?
Yeah.
He does. Oh, yeah. Now that's what we have to get.
So when I'm awake,
Yeah.
I'm 1,000 miles an hour, but it takes me like 17 seconds to go to sleep.
And he's
Oh,
done.
don't you
He's
can? Okay,
done.
let's
Yeah.
talk about that,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. Is that not the thing that drives you crazy? What is it? It's a man
It's a
thing.
man thing.
Like
I was about to say, come
I watch my
on.
husband, and his pillow's on his way. His head's on his way
Yeah.
down, and he's gone.
Hey, the pillow actually lifts up a little bit to meet him because, right? It's crazy.
And do you wake up, Diane?
crazy.
There's at 3 in the morning because as your brain is going, and you just look over and you just want to go.
Yes. And he's snoring away, sound asleep. That's how it was for me last night. Could not sleep, and I'm like,
And I love
"How are you sleeping so well?"
I love it. Here's my sweet, and believe me, he's a darling man. You know, Brian.
Oh, yes.
Well, his is, you just turn it off and let yourself sleep.
I wished I could.
Where's the switch? Where's the switch?
I need one of those switches, just go.
gosh.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a-
they've got it.
They've
got
got,
the switch.
they've got
so there
the
you go.
gift.
The
They've got the
reality
gift.
is you have the switch, right?
Yes.
So we have the two of you, right? And you're our switch. At the end of the night, we can relax in peace. knowing
Yeah, because
it's
we're
all
taking
good.
over.
Yeah.
Thank
Yes.
you.
You hear this?
What about shift work? When is your
Yes.
turn to take over? So easy.
I think it's a lot
Yes.
difficult for you guys to be comfortable that we've got it all in control.
Yeah.
But we can be perfect. We're just blessed to have you, and we know that everything is in control, so we can sleep.
Okay, we'll take that.
Well, because it's not going to change anyway.
Yes.
So what's the difference, right?
Yeah, there
So
you
I'll
go.
be thinking of you at 3 in the morning. Will you be thinking of me?
We'll text each other, right? We'll text each other. Welcome back to the Sweet Spot, Julia.
so great to be
here. So glad you
So
decided
happy
to
to be
stick
here.
around with us today.
Yes.
So we know we left off when you were actually telling us a little bit about Paradiso and how, the wonderful time you had there and how you got that restaurant and got it started. So can we pick the story up?
Well,
from there?
Paradiso was really something special because, in our experiences in our life, we can have all the right ingredients in a dish, and sometimes it just doesn't taste right. And gosh knows, we know that we've all had those experiences, and I can tell you about a few of those too. That would take a lot longer than 26 minutes. But, the ingredients, when they come together and that dish and you taste it, and it's like, whoa. And Oakville was ready for something different. And we were the first to bring out a Mediterranean concept. So we were bringing Greek food and Moroccan cuisine. And it wasn't something that was in Oakville. And we had live music.
best.
And Robert Michaels, who is now a Juno Award winner, he used to do conga lines and get people outside dancing.
Awesome.
And in the middle of February, he'd empty out the restaurant, and the few
Don't
people
forget
that
that.
didn't want to go would be sitting there going, Where did everybody go? And then he'd come out the other side and come in the other door and bring them in dancing. And there was just an energy that was magical there.
Wow.
And so for 7 years, and then we had 2 young men who bought it, who, when they came around and they wanted to purchase it, it was like, and I was doing everything so that it wasn't going to happen. And finally, my husband said, Julia, do you want to sell or you don't? I'm thinking, you know what? I know I can do this again. So we sold, and I'm so proud to say that they opened another Paradiso, and they're going strong. They're wonderful young men, and they continue. In fact, they have done some wonderful different things. And then I opened a restaurant just down the road called Julia's, because I ran out of names.
Yes.
I ran out of names. And after
Great food.
After 15 years, again, it was time to move. That's the tough part in life. It's one thing to know when to come in. It's a whole nother thing to know when to leave. Right? And I knew it was time. And now we have a restaurant in North Oakville called Ritorno. And Ritorno in Italian means to return to. And what it was a return after 25 years of doing this, returning back to all the things that I knew. Forget the shishi poo-poo, forget what were the things
Down
that I knew that really, really connected. And it was the down home from the heart, good traditional Italian food in an atmosphere where people felt like they were at home. And they didn't, like you watch in that restaurant, people have conversations with each other, sitting next to each other. Friendships have formed by just sitting in the same restaurant together.
Right.
You don't see that very often.
No.
And you got to let it all go and say, just be who you are. Be who you are, and you will be accepted in this restaurant, and you're going to get a good plate of Italian food.
Okay. So leadership lessons.
Yes.
Okay. So you've had restaurants in areas where people have great expectations. Yeah.
We are talking about Oakville, aren't we?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is so diplomatically put. Yes.
So what happens, right, in a situation where you have unrest,
Yes.
can you say, in the restaurant?
Oh, my gosh, there's going to be when you're dealing with human beings,
There's going to be.
there's going to be unrest. The thing that if you can try to remember, and I know that you believe in this, Michael, that if you can try to remember that if you look at where that unrest is coming from, it's about 99% of the time has nothing to do with you. So you need to understand that that person is carrying something with them that is there that you did not put there. And you may not have the power to change it or to make them happy. But you have to have to learn to not put it in you and internalize. And if you make a mistake, you've got to say it. I have no problem saying, "Ooh, yeah, kind of owe you here. I blew this one," because you're not always going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that restaurant experience that you want to deliver every single time, well, find me that person who can deliver it every time perfectly. Then I want to know that person, because life is life, and you're going to strive for. My husband once said to me, "But Julia, if you fed 300 people and 298 of them were happy, what's your problem that 2 of them weren't?" Well, the thing is, you never want to stop trying to make sure everyone's happy, but you do have to go, sometimes it's not in your control. But if it is, fix it and make it right.
Excellent.
Kind of like life. Yeah.
What advice? I mean, because restaurant is a tough business, right? You always hear about the success rates, and now
There really isn't one, actually, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yes,
It's 9 out of
yes,
10. I
nine.
think it is 8 or 9 out of 10 within the first 3 years.
yeah. So what's your magic?
Wow. Magic is, gosh, I wish if there was magic, I'd find a place to, life is, we want to believe there is magic. I think what it is understanding that passion is what drives you. It's what makes you get up in the morning, but it's not enough. And that's the hard part, is to say you have to have passion, but you have to be sustainable, right? So in other words, if you can't pay your electricity, if you can't pay your rent, and you can't, pay your staff, it doesn't matter how passionate you are, no matter how much you love what you're doing, you're not going to be able to continue to do it. So I have learned some very expensive lessons along the way.
Okay.
I haven't invested in a lot of causes that I didn't intend to invest in along the way to learn that your accountant is the least favorite person you want to see, but it's usually your best friend because those numbers don't lie. The truth is in numbers.
Right.
And when you're in business, and my goodness, and it doesn't matter what the business is, right?
That's right.
And that's the hard part,
Indeed.
right?
Wow,
Excellent. All right.
that's powerful.
Well,
Yes.
you manage what you do it in your life. Like you do what you do with passion and love. And even with charitable work,
Yeah.
you do it with passion and love, but you have to be able to sustain it, right?
That's right.
Right.
You, but you won't be able to have success if you don't have the passion and love first. Because if you're passionate and you love it, the end result of that is you can look and go, whoa, I made a little bit of money. Oh, I did that. Because you started with the most important ingredients.
So, I'm sorry.
No, please.
So speaking of passion
Right.
and love, I know you're very passionate when it comes to young people.
Oh, my goodness.
You
yes.
have a huge heart, and I know that you started your own organization where you give back to kids in the same area where you grew up in, Jane and Finch area, and you bring them in, some of them who've never gone in a restaurant before, right? Or and you teach. You have a chef come in, and you come in and you teach them firsthand how to cook. What's the nutritional side of eating, and what made you want to do that?
Well, because I realized that when I grew up, we didn't grow up with any of the monetary things, but we grew up with knowing we belonged. We had a posse. We belonged. We were connected, and we always had good food on the table. And I began to realize that we were now growing up with a generation of children that didn't have that. And it was no one's fault. It's how things evolved.
Right.
Because what happened is we took women out of the kitchen to say, we're going to give you more free time by giving you all these conveniences. How much more free time do you have? You know, Diane?
Zero.
Exactly. So
Zero, my
women
friend.
were what happened then, women filled that time with work and other things, and there wasn't time. So when the nonas came out of the kitchen, who went in? So those traditions, I was taught to cook. When I was taught to cook, everybody has this romantic idea that I sat beside my grandmother and went like this and watched her cook, right? Are you kidding? I'm not going to learn how to cook and marry some man and have to cook for him every day. Oh, no way. And my grandmother would say, you are learning how to cook.
Yes.
Well, who ended up in the restaurant business, right? Because she understood it was a life skill. Knowing how to feed yourself is a life skill. And the more economically marginalized you are, the more at risk your health is.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
So put the two together, we can point our fingers and say, well, why aren't you as a mother in there cooking, or why aren't you making? Well, if you don't know how, we feel bad enough going through life every day, feeling like we're not adequate enough. Do we need something else that's going to make us feel like we failed? So we decided, and through the sponsorship of Longos, and we all know and love Longos, and of course Starling Homes, the people that have become involved in this project, because they understood that if you want to promote people to come back to the table and eat as a family, and if you've never done it, to even start once a week is one time better than not, right? You need to help them learn how. So right now we have a partnership with the McMaster University Children's Hospital, and they have identified children that have health issues around food. Like children, right? Type 2 diabetes, children. So we work with them, and it's about getting excited and feeling good, because your relationship with food is one of the most important relationships you're going to have.
Yeah, that's so true.
And if you know about what their relationship with food is, you can see how they feel about themselves. And that's what we worked towards. So we bring them in, the Longos Lofts, and they're across the GTA. In fact, we worked with the two of you.
Yes.
With a group of ladies, of
That's
young
right.
ladies.
That's right.
Down at the Maple
Trust
Leaf.
15.
Yes.
Trust 15.
Right?
Yeah.
We did that, and we,
right.
and the empowerment. People want to feel empowered. And knowing how to feed yourself or your family is a powerful thing.
It really is.
Right?
It really
So
is.
that's what we do. We literally get in the kitchen, and even to the point of teaching people how to set a table.
Wow.
Because if you've never sat at a table,
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
right? So it's very, very exciting to see that people are becoming so aware that sitting around a table isn't just about nutrition, it's about mental health. Because our children today, they're not all blessed. Your children, and by the way, you have 3 of the most beautiful daughters. I'm still trying to hook up one of my
Yes,
sons
yeah,
with one of the
yeah.
daughters, my youngest.
I know, right?
Yeah, and
we
it's-
need to make that happen.
We still have some
They are,
time here.
they are
We-
handsome fellows. Too,
I
yes.
believe in arranged marriages, I have to say. Me too. But you know, not everyone has that sense of, you know, you've always brought your family together around the table, Diane, and I know that as a fact, and that was because it was something that was taught to you. Your mother, through touch, she taught you. You think of those who haven't had that. You want to help them get there because they've now connected, sitting around the table, to good mental health. Because that is where you feel you belong and you matter.
Yeah, it's true.
Is anything you've learned from the young people through this process, or if not, what's the most important lesson?
Well, what I've learned from them, I think that quite frankly, really, I learn more from them than they do from me. What I have learned, do not judge. You do not know.
That's right.
What you see in front of you, you can make a decision based on what you see, and until you take the time to get to know
Start peeling back the
how
layers.
that vision came to you when you first saw them, you do not have a clue,
That's right.
right? And what else did I learn? Every child wants the same thing. They want to feel they belong, and they want to feel loved. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they want. And I think if we listen to our children, I think that they have a lot more to teach us than we think.
Absolutely. I truly believe that.
Yeah, they know a lot more than we think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
well, and especially if you're married to a child, like a perpetual child who's
Yes, yes.
He's going to always be a kid.
He's always gonna be a
right?
kid.
Julia, I don't have to tell you. Well, this is my oldest child.
well, he is, and I have to
Yes.
say that I know this
Right?
is supposed to. I'm supposed to talk about me,
crazy.
but I do tell this story all the time because for people who know Michael or have had the opportunity to meet Michael and Diane, you would think that this is so. They do this so well that there must be this other side. And I am telling you, you have this. They have this rare quality of what you see is what you get. And my favorite Michael story is when we were at an event, and we were with a very famous opera singer. And his name was Michael too.
I remember this story.
And when we were, one of the two things I remember is walking across the street,
street.
and people are going, Michael! And of course, the famous opera singer, because he gets that, you know, when he's in Vienna, it's Michael. And he's looking on, and they don't know, they're like calling Michael. They're calling you, right? And then, and what I'll never forget, and I try to remember this because it's very important, Michael, we were all standing getting on this elevator, and there was a whole bunch of people, and they're all, like you'll notice that you'll find Michael. He may not be the tallest person in the room, but he's always surrounded by people, right? So Michael was sitting there talking. People were talking to you, and you were talking to them, and you're engaged in looking at them. There was a young man who was against the railing, and you could tell he was really taken by. He was watching you, but you knew he didn't have. You knew nobody else would have noticed. He didn't have that confidence to come towards you, but he was looking at you. And the elevator door opened, and Michael said to everybody, "You guys go, take this one, I'll take the next one." And I'm standing there because I'm off to the corner, I'm talking to someone. I go, "Why is he not getting on the elevator?" And I realized, and you went over and you talked to that young man. And I know that simple gesture alone that took no time, but that awareness that you have, very few people had. And I know the significance of watching, because I then watched that young man, and I watched him as he watched you, and wished that he could be connected to you for that moment, like those people around you were. And I watched him kind of like, kind of wishing. And then I watched his face after you talked to him, got the other elevator and left. And he literally transformed. Like he literally was a different being. And a simple gesture like that.
Yeah, I once heard a statement, people are mostly too impatient to be smart. And that's what we love about you. Your incredible patience, right? When we're in your restaurant and you got, not only do you come over and make us feel special, right? But everyone in the room feels like you're their Nona.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right?
100%.
And without fail, right? Even people who are older than you think you're their Nona.
Yeah. I am loving this moment because I'm going to hope that I get a copy of this because I'm going to play it to my family. Somebody described me as patient.
Yes.
Wasn't there? Patient.
Yes.
And I'm patient is not, but it's, you know what it is? I think, Michael, it's just being aware of others, And don't you notice that the more self-absorbed you are, the less happy you are? Do we think that's a coincidence?
Oh,
Yes.
So
yes.
true.
And let it be noted that you are extremely patient, right? Because you do just what you were talking about before, and that is you take the time to get to know people. Right? And so, yes, your pace is fast, right? But you take the time to get to know people, right? Patience isn't about, how fast do you run the 1 mile run, right?
Yeah.
That whole exercise is to get there faster, not slower, right? It is how you interact with people. That's what patience is.
Yeah.
And when it comes to people, you're second
Wow.
to none. You're yes. In
Well, look who this is coming. I'm still working towards to watch you. Few people when you're in the room in a restaurant, I love to watch you go. I've always said this, and I mean this with great sincerity, everybody. I am very grateful that they've never opened a restaurant next door to mine. I just want everybody to know that. I'm really, really, really happy.
Oh my
Okay, so let's keep it that way. We can stay friends.
I was going to say, maybe one day we do one together.
Oh my goodness! Who'd be doing the cooking? We'd be so busy talking.
I know, husband. So you can't put the two of you together because that won't work. Because one will out-talk the other, and that would be a whole thing.
Oh,
No, can't do that.
it would be interesting for a while.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. But I
Good,
wanted
good.
to say, in hearing you talk about your journey and the faith that you had, really,
right.
starting with the small restaurant, nobody in there, you setting the table
Yeah.
and scrambling. So it would look like people were coming to draw people in, and then going on to Paradiso and Julia's and so on. It reminds me of. It reminded me of Matthew 7:7 when it says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened." And I truly believe that God literally saw that he saw what you had in you, and he knew the connection that you would have with people, right? And the relationships that it would build. And he just opened one door after the other for you and allowed those things to happen so that you could build. Because sometimes it only takes a smile. It simply takes someone saying, "Hi, how are you? How was your day? How was your meal? Is there anything I can do better for you?" And that's what you bring, Julia.
It's interesting because I tell my servers all the time, because often they're impacted if they have a difficult person, because it can be when you're in the service industry, it's a difficult industry to be in because
Yes,
you're
it
serving,
is.
just the
It
word
is.
serving someone, right?
Servitude,
And they can be very difficult for them if they have a difficult person that they're dealing with. But I often remind them, you need to always remember that you have the same impact on their life that they can have on yours.
Right.
It's mutual. Because if you're served by someone who they don't pay attention to you, you feel less than.
Yeah.
People we just all want to feel like somebody has noticed us. We don't, and that's how we don't feel alone. We don't feel isolated. We don't feel lonely when we're noticed. Not noticed in, that flashy way and when you're speaking in front of people. That's a different ballgame. And you have done that. That's part of what I have to do in my life now. But it's the real significant connection, which is that one-on-one. And Michael, as much as you, and I've seen you speak publicly many times, and as much as you impact those people, and Diane, I've seen you one-on-one impact this same way that you do when you're on stage talking to thousands of people. But I somehow believe that when it's that one-on-one, it takes less time, less preparation than it does to give a speech.
Right.
But it has the greater impact because you actually connected with that one person for that one moment. People don't forget that.
Yeah.
And they don't forget when you make them feel bad. Either.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think connection is the word of the day.
Yes.
And,
We need more of that.
Connection
so,
and love.
Yes. So if you don't mind, just before we finish up,
Yes.
I want you to give you a chance to brag about your boys.
Oh, they're
handsome men.
I'm telling you, I have
No
three boys, they
boys
have three
now.
daughters.
Yeah.
They're men. I think that is really why we do what we do, isn't it? And you know what I've always dreamt? You don't want perfect beings. You want kind and good beings. And if they have a good heart, if they have kindness in them, they're going to get life challenge them, but they're going to have quality of life because they will receive love because they know how to give it.
Yes.
And if I've taught my boys, I hope that I've taught them one thing, is that you need to understand kindness and goodness and give it. And I think they all have that. I know they all have that. They sure do. If they want to eat, they all have that, right? Well, this has been so much fun.
That's awesome. Well, Julia, once again, you're amazing.
delight.
Well,
You
thank
really
you.
are.
Yes, it's sheer
You
delight.
light up the room. Thank you for joining
Coming
us
from the
here
two of you, that's a
in
real
the
compliment.
Sweet spot.
And it
for
was sweet,
sharing
by the
your
way.
sweet spot
It
with
was
us.
very sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Thank
and
you.
We just hope you enjoyed your time here. In the
Oh,
Sweet
loved it.
Spot. Thank you for tuning in
All right.
to the Sweet Spot and for listening. And we just want to remind everyone that the relationship that you build with people, it is extremely important. And this world is starving for love. Everyone is starving for love. So we want to encourage you to just try to love just a little bit more.
From our plate to yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, find that sweet spot.
That's it. Yeah. Until next time, stay in your sweet spot.